want to thank you all for coming and being here on this call today. As I told my staff earlier, please point people in the direction of the call on a daily basis, because I'm having so many one-off calls that I'm answering questions that I think everybody needs to hear the answers to. And honestly, I've got some things that I've got to get done, and I love talking to you all, and I really appreciate your situation, but I'm in, I need to get some other stuff done. And so if everybody could be on the call. I'm not the expert here. I am trying my best to learn everything I can about some of the financial bailout, relief packages and everything else. But I think together we're better, and together we have the answers. And so please don't hesitate to unmute yourself. If you have a better answer than I do to something, and I think I will take this moment to say I'm not a lawyer and I am not an accountant. I am fairly well versed on what's come out from the federal government in the last few months. Excuse me, yeah, I guess it is now. And in the last few days. And then I have some idea of what's going on at the state, although I just had one of my board members text me and say, do you know anything about the governor shutting down liquor sales because a policeman had come into his restaurant where he does liquor sales and told him that the governor was going to do that. Anyway, I've heard nothing about that. If you guys have heard that, please let me know, but I don't believe she'd do that. I know that the governor of Colorado shut down liquor sales and liquor stores and the marijuana stores, and he almost got run out of town, and within an hour he came back and said, I take that back. So I wouldn't think she would do that. That wouldn't be a smart move on our governor's part. Anyway, so let's get on with it. You guys know about the conference call. We'll be doing this every day. It will come out in a different Zoom meeting every day on this dining at NM restaurants. You're going to get this on a daily basis. And that's where this conference call will be noted, and it will be a different number every day. We have a video on the CARES Act. It was a summary that we did on Friday. Remember, that came out on Friday, so it's really early into what we know about that act. But I would say if you get a moment, if you were not here for that call, please go back and watch the video. And you can also read the summary and that's the summary of the bill. That's not just a summary of what we think the bill says. There's some tips on applying for SBA economic injury disaster loans, and you can go and get the tips here. Honestly, I don't know if this works. I think what I'm telling people now is that your best bet is to go to your banker and find out what your banker knows about these SBA loans. There's more than one different SBA loan that's available right now. One of them is forgivable, the other ones are not. And I think you probably need to go to your banker to figure out some of this. Your accountant and your lawyer might not be bad, but just know that this is so new and they know so little about it right now that everybody's just trying to get up to speed on it. My intent for these phone calls is to have a banker and a CPA on this week. And I'm trying to find somebody that knows a lot about this. So if you guys have a CPA or a banker that knows a lot about this, that you think would be willing to come on these phone calls and answer some questions, please let me know if you have those resources. I did talk to one CPA today. He was strongly up on this paid sick leave and expanded family medical leave act that came out 2 weeks ago. He didn't know so much about the paycheck protection program or the other things that came out in the most recent. So moving on. We did get this guidance that the FDA is temporarily being flexible about nutrition labeling on certain packaged foods. So therefore, not all of your packaged food has to have specific labeling, but we do ask you to look at this guidance and make sure that you're at least doing at the very least of what you can do if you're selling raw foods or packaged foods. And we are desperately trying to get the governor to let us allow restaurants to deliver alcohol. We have sent, I think it's over 350 notices to the governor and legislators that this is something our industry needs right now just to stay afloat. And I really appreciate that those letters and messages came from you all. But if you're a person who has not sent that yet, please, please send that message, and you can do it right from here. Also, we put together a fund called the Serving New Mexico Fund. This is a fund for our employees that are having hardships during these times. And we just appreciate, you know, like I said, I had a lot of folks that wanted us to tell them where they could give money. And this was one of the places that I said, you know, if you want an employee in the restaurant industry to get your money, this is where you can go. We've gotten 10,000, I think it's $15,000 in that fund now. 10,000 from the Greater Santa Fe Restaurant Association. I want to plug them and say thank you very much for that. And then we've had 5,000 from just folks from Facebook. I sent out a challenge to my friends on Facebook this weekend, and I think they answered it, and other people's did too. So don't hesitate to send that around. And then we have, again, the daily calls. Remember that ServSafe is having free ServSafe food handler classes and ServSafe delivery and takeout. One of the things I want you guys to see is this employee rights. This just came out, and this is a poster you need to post in your restaurant. And then not only do you need to post it, but you need to do the things that it says you're going to do in here. So generally the employer is covered under the act, and remember this is any employer with 500 or fewer employees. And then if you are an employer with 50 or fewer employees, you can apply for a hardship to this. But the paid leave entitles, it mandates you to provide employees with up to 2 weeks or 80 hours or a part-time employee a 2-week equivalent of paid sick leave based on the higher of their regular rate of pay or the applicable state or federal minimum wage, paid at 100% for the days, 2/3 for any qualifying person in reason 4, and we've got our reasons down here. Anyway, you guys need to know this because your employees that are still employed with you, now this doesn't relate to the employees that you've laid off, but the employees that are still employed by you can start getting this paid sick leave. And remember that the federal government is going to pay you back on a quarterly basis for any paid sick leave that you have to have with this. Before we leave this, does anybody have any questions? And can you please, at this point, let's try chatting them. Do you have any questions about this wage and hour division poster that you need to post? It's also in Spanish.
Carol?
Yeah.
Will you send that to us in email, or is that included in the most recent update from NMRA already?
I was trying to determine that before everybody came on. I don't know. We will send this out tomorrow in the newsletter. So you'll get You'll get this in the newsletter tomorrow, and we'll post it on our coronavirus page, but just so you can expect it in that email.
Okay, and this is new law as of a couple days ago, right?
No, this is new law as of now. Remember, this doesn't start until April 1st, but April 1st is Wednesday. This is the first relief act that they passed before they started shutting everybody down. So they thought this was the relief that we were going to need at the time. We kind of told them that this was too little too late, and to give us a payment back after we've already done this for a couple of quarters was probably not going to be terribly helpful, especially if we have to lay off our entire workforce. But in the end, this still became law, and it is something that we have to abide by now.
Okay.
And
A follow-up question on that is, here at our place, we haven't laid people off. We have the happy coincidence up here in Red River that this whole COVID-19 thing is happening concurrent to what our normal spring off season is anyway. So, you know, we normally see a 80% reduction in our business this time of year anyway. And we operate on reduced hours, and a lot of our seasonal workers, the people that are here in town to live during the ski season, have gone away. So if we don't have any laid off people, if the situation with our workforce is one of reduced hours for the majority of our people, how would this apply? Does it mean that everybody who's still on the payroll that qualifies for 80 hours or their part-time equivalent for the paid sick leave?
Yes, but remember, it has to be COVID related. So
Right.
it's,
Oh, okay.
so if they're subject to federal, state, or local quarantine or isolation, they've been advised by a healthcare provider to self-quarantine, they're experiencing COVID symptoms, or they're caring for another individual.
Okay.
So
Then those people would qualify for 2 weeks or the part-time equivalent of paid sick leave, and then our business would be reimbursed by the federal government for those costs quarterly?
yes, supposedly in the beginning we were told it was with your quarterly payroll payments, but there's
Okay.
been no evidence that that's how they're going to do this, except what we were told in the beginning. So that's what we're going with right now. So
Okay.
if you still
Perfect.
have employees, they are subject to this.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else have questions about that? If not, there was one other thing I was going to talk to you guys about. Does anybody have any specific questions? And don't make them too specific, because I don't think I can handle it. But and there are a lot of people on this call that know more than I do. So if anybody has questions, one thing I did want to show you was we got this document the other day, and this basically shows what some of you did in a survey with the National Restaurant Association. It shows that none of the respondents had permanently closed their restaurant. I know of at least 3 restaurants that are permanently closed. And I think this is, you know, I think this is what the government is going to look at, is how many restaurants are permanently closing. 5% anticipate permanently closing the restaurant within 30 days. And I'm, you know, that number just upsets me. And one thing I told a couple of people that called me today was, I think it's really important that you guys conserve your cash in any way you can. So taking advantage of some of these government relief efforts may be your only way to do that. Obviously, I think some of you have already taken steps by laying off your employees and other things, but I appreciate that you guys know this. But I've heard from a couple of people today that they're keeping their employees on even though there's no business. And I just want to say, I don't think that's sustainable. And we have to do what we can to keep you guys in business once this goes away and we're back up and running again. So we got quite a few people on the call. Does anybody have a question that, if you don't mind, you can unmute yourself or you can ask it in the
Carol, this is Minerva.
Yeah, hi Minerva.
Hi. Hey, just a quick question on this statistics for New Mexico. By any chance, would it be possible to pull out Santa Fe specific numbers and get them to us? And it doesn't have to be like as detailed as this, just some like, you know, bullet points.
So we did our own survey. This comes from a survey that the National Restaurant Association did. They had enough people answer their survey that they felt like it was statistically valid to put these numbers out. We are finalizing our survey here like by Wednesday, by April 1st. And I will see what we have, if we have enough information that we can do this city by city. I know I've had that same request from the city of Albuquerque.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Jerry?
Carol, have you heard anything from the governor about her extending the her original executive order closing restaurants through the 10th of April? Is she going to extend it to the 30th?
I haven't heard. Allison, you're on if you have heard anything. I haven't heard any dates mentioned ever, so.
No, and I get all of the press releases. This is Allison. I get all the press releases from the governor's office, and I haven't seen that yet, nor have I heard anything from her staff about that. But I can certainly make a phone call to the Environment Department and see if they've heard anything further.
I am correct in that the first executive order closing restaurants did state through April 10th. Is that correct?
Let me do, I believe it was, yes. And let me just quickly take a look at the press releases and make sure that I've got the best advice or the best information for you, Jerry.
Okay, because the president is talking about April 30th now for social distancing. And so I just want to make sure before I start calling employees to come back to work, what day we're actually going to actually open. So.
Well, and that's kind of a moving target. So I think that stay tuned.
So, and here's what I want to say about that is that I think we need to be very careful about this, because I don't think restaurants are going to be the first things that come back. Right? I mean, retail is going to come back before restaurants. And I think they're going to move very slowly, even on the 50% capacity in restaurants. And then we also have the problem that people aren't going to want to go back necessarily and expose themselves, knowing that the virus is still out there. So I just want you guys to be very careful about this. And what you're thinking about, you know, even with some of these federal relief efforts, the Paycheck Protection Program, I mean, if you took that now, you'd have 2.5 months of payroll to pay your employees. But what if we're not even open by that time? So I want you guys to be aware that there's so many variables here. And I think one of the variables is, even when things open up, we're not going to be one of the first things that they open up completely. I've got a question here. Oh, will you share the page of the results survey? Yeah, we'll share this on the newsletter tomorrow as well. And I've got an interview with the Albuquerque Journal this afternoon. When may employers reduce their payroll tax deposits by the amount of the employer's Social Security taxes? I don't know that. And the good thing is that I plan on having a CPA on one of these calls in the next week. And so keep your eye out for that. That's a question, I think, for a CPA. So yeah.
Hey, Carol, Matt DeGregory.
Yeah, Matt, do you have an answer for that?
Actually, no, I don't. I was going to ask a different question.
Okay.
If you're still
Go
on
ahead.
that one. First off, I posted something. My chat, for some reason, is only to you. And I don't know why I can't seem to fix it. But
no, just for everybody's sake, we had a little problem on Thursday, I think it was.
Okay.
And so the chat is only going to me. And sorry, but that's the way it's got to be.
Okay. Anyway, I sent you what U.S. Bank sent me just to try and clarify some of the different types of SBA funding that's available. My other banker talked about how they don't really even know what's going on. And one of the things that with the PPP loan, that their concern is that, you know, they're saying that you take this loan out and it will be forgiven. Well, the banks don't even know how they're getting paid if it's forgiven. So there are still a lot of questions in that regard. And then I've had friends of mine telling me that the CARE Act helps pay for people who are on unemployment. And like the New Mexico state unemployment only pays up to a certain amount, that the federal will come through and pay the rest of that amount up to 100% of their pay. But I have not seen anywhere where that is stated. Do you have any information on that?
So the recent act that was passed on Friday has a provision in it that will allow $600 extra for anybody that's on unemployment weekly. So on top of the unemployment they're getting now, they're going to get an extra $600, which brings them, I saw a calculation to about $21 or $22 per hour to sit at home. So it's a disincentive for trying to bring them back on your payroll, just for your information. And we're looking to see how that's used, but it's basically anybody that's on unemployment will get an extra $600 from the feds on a weekly basis. I think there's some danger to that. I think definitely it's going to be hard to use the Paycheck Protection Program correctly in order to bring those people back and keep them on your payroll rather than on the Fed's payroll or the unemployment. So I can't answer that right now. It will become clearer. But I think that's really what we're looking at right now, is that our employees that are laid off are getting an additional $600 per week from the federal government.
Carol, where is that written? Everything I'm reading from the act says up to, and that it's up to the state that's administering it.
You can bet our state's going to give them. Let me think where I can find
and
that.
I guess while you're looking that up, I heard the sentiment last week about the disincentive, and I guess I'm usually in agreement with that, but since this is a stimulus, although it will be a disincentive to our employees, I think it'll be a stimulus to have our customers have more money in their wallet than less. So I'm kind of on both sides of the fence on this one.
You know, I get it, and I get that it is a stimulus and it's trying to get money into the hands and make sure that these folks don't, you know, have the money to feed their families. I totally understand that. And it's very hard for us to take advantage of the Paycheck Protection Program and bring people back onto our payroll if they're paying them more to stay off of our payroll. It's just, I don't think they quite understood the disincentive, or they may have understood it perfectly well.
This is Jerry Harrell. I was curious if anyone has given any thought to the amount of business when we do start ramping back up, opening. How much business do you think we'll actually have? I mean, how much regular business will we lose as people are scared to come out, or are there going to be, does people think that we're just going to have boom time and everybody's so happy to be out and not practicing social distancing that they'll come out and spend money? Or will they stay home and I'll have half of what I anticipate doing? Anybody have any thoughts?
I'll let other people answer that if they want.
Hey, Jerry, I think that it's going to depend a lot upon what the status of the country is. If there is a cure for this thing and it looks like it's dwindling down to nothing, I think people will feel confident about going out. I think if you're highly dependent upon tourism, I think it'll be a little bit more of a problem and a slower up ramp, so to speak. But from what we closed all of our stores as of Saturday, and the word that the public is telling us that the minute we reopen, they'll come back. But who knows what that means? So, I think it really depends. If they're still showing outbreaks in New York or California and New Mexico's on a decline, I think people will still be very cautious. That's my thoughts.
I think you also have to consider the travel and tourism. So if your restaurant is based on travel, is that travel going to come back right away? I mean, if it's highway travel, maybe. If it's airplanes, possibly not. So I think that's something to consider. Is there somebody else that wanted to talk about that? No? Okay. Let's see.
So Carol,
yeah.
May I go back to Jerry's question on the executive order?
Sure.
So Jerry, I did find the press release, and it does say April 10th. However, it is, I do remember in her announcement at that time, she did say that could definitely be extended depending on what's going on in the country. So it's still that moving target, but we'll keep you apprised as best we can.
That was my understanding as well, that in the statement, she said, well, we'll look at it. From my point of view, I'd rather her look at it sooner rather than later, not wait till the week of April 10th for me to start telling employees to come back to work. We're going to try this. And then she says, oh, go through the 30th instead. So
yeah, I think you're safer to kind of take your cue from if the president is saying April 30th, then I think you're probably safer to be following that guideline than the April 10th. I fully expect to hear something from the governor as this progresses.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So I had a question. Can I, being a restaurant owner, apply for unemployment? And somebody else chatted me and said there's also a new provision for unemployment for self-employed people, which might be helpful for some owners on this call. So I will look that up and see if we can't get to that information. I know that they broadened the unemployment out to include contractors and other folks. So I think we can we can say that a self-employed person would be in that category as well.
Hey, Carol,
Yeah.
this is Lawrence. The employee rights poster is now on the webpage.
Oh, fabulous. Okay. So you guys heard that. That's my crack webs developer guy, and he's keeping up with all of this, but I tell you what, it's hard to keep up with. Tom Martin says, with regard to the FCRA, that is going into effect on April 1st. What determines 50 employees? Number on payroll, FTEs, if FTEs, whose definition, and does all right, that's a question I don't know the answer to. I'll have to look that up too. Under the new Federal Relief Act, 30 hours is a full-time equivalent. So let me find out what they're considering in that first act, what a full-time equivalent is and how many you have to have in order for that to affect you. So I've got, thanks Tana. Coronavirus and who it affects. Hopefully this is not going to play, but. So I lost my job. What kind of help can I get? Once you're on unemployment insurance in your state, you'll be eligible to get an extra $600 per week in emergency federal funding. Through July 31st, 2020. That's
Sorry, that was in response to somebody's question about if it was only up to $600 or if it was $600. According to this article, it's $600.
Right. So it's $600 on top of what they're already getting from the state.
Correct. So
and that, yeah, and that is what I thought as well.
Right.
Let's see. They told me you can't get unemployment unless you are totally closed. Is that as a restaurant owner? So I don't know if that's as a restaurant owner or not, but whoever that was that texted me that, yes, as an owner. So as an owner, if you're completely closed, I guess you can get unemployment, and if you are only partially closed, you can't. I don't have any verification except Ashley, who's texting me. So check with the Department of Workforce Solutions on that, although they're pretty darn busy right now. Other questions that you guys might have? Unmute yourself if you would. Anything that you want to know from us? Again, I'm going to try to get some professionals on here to answer these questions for you. My situation right now is that as I talk to these professionals, I'm trying to make sure that they're up to date on what they know. And some of them are and some of them aren't. And you'll find the same thing with your lawyer or your CPA. This just came out on Friday. We are still waiting for the SBA to write regulations around it. From what we understand, once a bill is signed, they have 15 days to get regulations out. And so we're looking for them to get those regulations out in the next 15 days. I don't think it's going to be too late for you guys, but again, conserve your cash. Any other, I heard somebody try to ask a question. Just mute yourself if you would like to ask a question.
Hey, Carol, Justin in Santa Fe with Dashing Delivery, wondering about alcohol delivery and how we can help advocate for that. I know we work with a lot of restaurants currently right now, and I know that that would help bring a bigger ticket and a higher margin to everything to these guys.
I appreciate that. And, you know, we did have, Lawrence, tell me how many people we had on our, we had an alert go out, and we've had, I think, over 300 people.
I'm pulling up the number now.
Okay.
And while Lawrence is pulling up that number, this is Allison. I can say we've also not only have that campaign going, but have also sent letters to via email to the governor, and also had a senator call governor's staff today, trying to also get some movement on that. So we're working on that, but certainly anybody else willing to make a phone call or send an email or send a letter on that point would be great. We are hearing from the alcohol director that he can't do this on his own, and he's not really certain whether or not the governor can do this by executive order. However, other states have done it by executive order, so we're putting that forward to her, trying to get some movement on that.
So if you guys, this is our website. If you're, it's a front page.
And Carol?
Yeah.
493 advocates on that campaign.
Oh my gosh, that's wonderful, guys. So that's 493 advocates. How many legislators and others have gotten that? Or is that?
It sends to by where they're at. So
right.
It's 1,400 total messages have been sent.
So because of what you guys have done, we've had 1,400 messages sent to the governor and legislators. But here's where you go. You go to our front page, you scroll down, it says Act Now, and you go down here to tell the governor to let restaurants deliver alcohol, or tell the government to support restaurants. So this is what we were asking from the government. There were things like making sure that the unemployment was mutualized over all accounts, not just your account. So if you send somebody to unemployment, it's not going to cost your account. Now, we were able to get that from the governor. So we hope that she's hearing us, and we hope that she's going to allow us to deliver alcohol. We actually haven't heard very much from her office about this. So we're still putting pressure on, and hopefully that pressure will be helpful. But thanks for asking that. And it's on our front page. Just one scroll down and you can ask the governor for her support.
Carol?
I sent it out to my network here, then people that I had lobbied with a bunch of years back. And if in your advocacy, if it can include companies like us that are working for the local restaurants to do the delivery.
So my only thing about that is that as long as the liquor comes from a restaurant, I'm perfectly happy. I don't care who delivers it, except that you guys have to get alcohol certified, which you can do at ServSafe.
Can you do it Can you do it online now?
Yes, yeah, you can do it online.
Okay.
And you can
Carol?
get there through our website as well. Yes.
This is Allison. Is there a possibility, because I know that campaign that went out says as a member of NMRA, would it be possible to get a version of that campaign that doesn't state that you're a member, so that this way restaurants could send that link out to their customers? And then it would be a customer ask of the governor as well as the restaurateur.
We'll work on that. Yeah, awesome. I think from here on we could change the message to be a more general public message, and that way we can get the general public involved.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, I appreciate that.
And once we make those changes, I'll go ahead and update everything on Facebook, because it does make it easier for a lot of people to share stuff on Facebook. So once we get those changes done, if you guys will just keep your eyes on our page and on our group, we'll have stuff up in a shareable format that should make it easier.
And if you don't know about our group, we are Restaurant New Mexico restaurant resources. Let me see if I can get this to come up.
Carol, while you're pulling that up, I just want to mention that although we're not able to deliver liquor, La Posta restaurant down here in Mesilla came up with a clever thing. If you buy $25 worth of to-go, they'll throw in a free quart of margarita mix. And you can mix your margarita according to their recipe with your own tequila at your home. So I thought that was pretty cute.
Nice, yes. As long as it doesn't have alcohol in it, you can sell it out your door. So anyway, I'm not, this is driving me crazy, but anyway, New Mexico Restaurant Resources. We're just trying to keep everybody up to date on what's going on and giving you some things that you can share there as well as our Facebook site. Any other questions? We don't have to go all the way to 4, but we can. Yes.
That fourth box down has a link to the, there it is.
There we go.
A next one over. Sorry.
I think that's it. Yeah. So if you guys would, please join this group, and we'll keep you guys updated.
And the group is also a good place for everyone to get your updates as we change the Zoom meeting credentials. We'll create a new event in the group every single time we're doing one of these calls, and you'll have that day's calling information in that event.
Oh, good. Okay, that's another way you can get to it.
I have a plug as well. Don't forget that our website also has a chat box on it. So if it's anything that you're online already and you can chat us directly, especially during office hours, that would save Carol a phone call as well.
Type your message here. Thank you. Thanks for that. Any other questions, thoughts?
Had a caller call in today that wanted to know if we had any information about whether or not restaurants are legally allowed to sell packaged food in New Mexico.
I'm gonna say yes. We got some, oh, what do I want to say? We got some information. Let me make sure it's here. So the FDA provides temporary flexibility regarding nutrition labeling on certain packaged food. I would just, as long as you're doing this, I think we're perfectly fine. We will get clarification from the Environment Department, though. They have been very easy to work with for us. I understand that certain inspectors are not as easy to work with, but please let us know if you have any problem with an inspector. Please let us know. And Allison, could you get some clarification from the secretary about packaged foods?
I'm texting him right now.
Okay, perfect. So I actually think they sent me something, and it's probably on our COVID page. Let me see if I can find it really quickly. And I'm sorry, we've got so much information on this page. I hate to take anything off, but I know it's getting harder and harder to find stuff. So this is from, so that's the nutrition labeling right here. I don't see it here, and I will look back in my email and see if I can find it and get that information out as well. But yes, you can do packaged foods, and you can relax the labeling. You just can't not label them. So I got something from Anna Sue. It says SBA.gov funding programs. Let's see what she sent me. So this is where we are. There's actually, so what you guys want to be doing is, if you're going for an SBA loan, and that's either one of these, the EIDL, which is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan right here, or if you're going for a Paycheck Protection Program loan, I think the best thing to do is go to your banker, because they're going to be able to get those loans through faster. We've been trying to get, just look at a loan for the New Mexico Restaurant Association, because we're going to be out of cash here soon, just like you guys are. And so we're looking at an EIDL loan because we don't qualify for the Paycheck Protection Program. And the website has been down or in one state of disarray or another. So we think that our best bet is to go to our banker. Now, your banker may not know a whole lot about this yet. They are eventually going to be, I think, our experts on these federal loans. So I think that's where we do want to go. Yeah.
I don't know if Tom Hutchison's on, but I thought maybe it was him that said it, or another call I was on last week said the EIDL loan was being handled directly by the SBA, and the 7A loan is only handled through bankers. So that was the information I received last week, and came from someone in the banking SBA field.
Well, so that was our speaker that was here, the SBA director. He said go through the website if we wanted to get the EIDL loan. But the website has been so clunky and so bad lately that I'm just telling people to try to go to your banker. And let me see, we've got another. So this is SBA/funding-programs loans Paycheck Protection Program. And I mean, you can go in here. I'm just worried about you all being one of the million businesses that it's going through this. And I will say this, I'm going to try to go in every direction, going through the SBA Direct, through this website, and also going to my lender and just see who comes out fastest with it. I did hear something that was terribly disturbing today, and that is with the Paycheck Protection Program, companies like CPAs and architects and lawyers that are very busy right now. They're all maybe working from home, but they're extremely busy and they're not losing a beat as far as money. They can apply for this Paycheck Protection Program and get all of their payroll paid for 2.5 months. So in my heart of hearts, this should be for restaurants only. This should be for our industry or industries that are equally impacted. It should not be for industries that are not impacted by this. But I don't, when I heard that, it broke my heart. So just, I need you guys, if you think you want one of these loans, I need you to do what you can quickly, because there's a lot of other folks out there that are, I mean, every state has restaurants just like this state does. And I need you guys to be there and to get these loans so we get you back in business.
Carol?
Yes.
This is Allison again. Can I ask, Cindy, did that person who asked the question about packaged foods, did they say that they'd had an inspector tell them they couldn't? Do you know?
It was actually somebody from Cisco.
Okay, because the response I just got back from Secretary Kinney was, what would make them think they can't? So if anyone
she was
has...
gonna email Carol her question. She'll put Cisco and something in her subject line on her email, Carol. So I'm not exactly sure what her question was.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, we'll get to that tomorrow if it comes up again.
Hey,
so
this is George.
Say that again.
This is George.
Hey, George.
Sorry I was late. I just happen to know from my previous life at the farmer's market that there's a processor permit that's for food processors, and I'm unclear as to whether or not that really means for resell, like you're selling it to be wholesaled. So if you're creating it and you're selling it to the end consumer, then you're already fine. But if you're creating it to be sold at a grocery store, that's a different permit. So that could be what the Cisco guy was confused about.
Okay, I appreciate that, and I think that is true too. I think most of our members are concerned about just selling it out their door, not selling it out somebody else's door. So I've got another question. Are we disqualified for the CARES Act if we applied for the initial Disaster Relief Act? And you, yes, you cannot get both loans, but I also don't think an application is done until you sign it, until you sign off on the loan. So I think you could apply for the Paycheck Protection Program and then not sign the initial disaster relief program if that doesn't work as well for you. I'll get clarification on that as well. I don't have clarification. You cannot have both of those loans. They will not allow you to have both of those loans, but I think if you don't take the original one, you can take the Paycheck Protection. Just make sure that's what you want to do, because you have to bring like 90% of your employees back in order to take advantage of all of the payroll protection that you're getting out of that loan. So I've also got some other SBA, yeah. So we've got all kinds of, what do I want to say? The SBA, it's the website is here, but if you've been in here lately and tried to apply for anything, it's not working very well. And Cindy in our office did that last week. The website went down when she was in the middle of applying for a loan, and she doesn't know if any of that information was captured. And so that's partially the reason I'm telling you to go to your banker. Any other questions, guys? I don't want to keep you. We don't have to, these don't have to go for a full hour, but I certainly want to answer your questions. I want to make sure that, you know, and again, forgive me for not knowing everything, but it's so new that, again, most of us don't know a lot of what was in that 800-page Relief Act.
Carol, I have a question.
Yeah.
You mentioned a moment ago that the payroll protection program, that a business needs to hire 90% of their staff back to qualify for reimbursement under that program. Did I hear you say that correctly?
You did. As a seasonal business, it's different. You calculate your payroll differently, because what you're doing with that loan, the payroll protection program, is you're calculating 2.5 months of payroll is what they're going to give you for that loan, right?
Right.
And this is calculated on payroll from a previous year.
For the same time previous year? Or just
not necessarily same time previous year, but that works.
The 2.5 months prior to the COVID-19 closures.
I think they said a full 12 months plus.
Oh, okay. Well,
so an average of the full 12 months if you've been in business for that 12 months.
Regardless, the situation here in Red River and a lot of the other tourism economies, I imagine Santa Fe and Taos are very similar, that in the springtime, assuming that we reopen in, I don't know, April, May, June, October, whatever it is, the staff that we had here prior to closure have gone. You know, those are seasonal employees. They've gone back to wherever they were before they came to Red River to work and ski for the winter. We can't hire those people back. We wouldn't, during the normal course of operations, we wouldn't hire those individuals back. It would be another batch of people that are here for the summer.
So here's what I think. I don't know. I don't think you have to hire those individuals back, but you have to have a payroll that equals that 2.5 months, because whatever portion of that 2.5 months you don't use, it's not forgivable. So
Okay.
let's say, right, so
we're not
use
talking about
100%,
specific, not talking about specific individuals, just payroll dollar amounts that are in the same, at the same level.
yes,
Okay, got it.
that's what I believe to be true. And the other thing about that is that you can also pay rent, you can pay tips, you can pay interest, and health care and retirement as a part of that payroll protection program.
Are
So
those amounts reimbursable, or is it only the salary amounts that are reimbursable?
those are all reimbursable or forgiven.
Okay.
Yeah. And I believe utilities is in that as well. It's an 8-week loan. So only what you use in that 8 weeks, right?
Right. So does the 8 weeks start at a fixed point in time as prescribed by the government, or is the 8 weeks something that we determine based on when we apply for the loan?
I have no idea.
Sorry about that. This is Cindy.
Yeah.
They said that the end point is static. So the end point of the loan is June 30th.
Yeah.
You must back it up the 8 weeks. So
Okay.
it's
So
not.
May 1st through June 30th.
So you have to work it backwards, not forwards in this case.
So
Okay,
Michael,
so
in my notes,
for everybody out there, the loan program then is the 8 weeks that includes May and June. Is that correct?
no, so in my notes, and I don't know where, I got this from the National Restaurant Association. I have February 15th to June 30th. So I don't know exactly what that had to do with, but I think you can back this up to February 15th, and I don't know why you would.
Okay, well, when you are looking for your financial professionals, a CPA person to come in, that's a question that I would love to ask that individual is, how do we determine the 8 weeks? And does an individual business have any discretion about where that 8 weeks falls? Because, you know, personally, I would like to optimize that 8 week time frame so that I can recoup the largest portion of the loan amount that I possibly can.
Yeah, and I think your problem is just going to be having those people on payroll. Maybe not, because maybe it'll be, maybe you can hit your.
So the 8 weeks is from the origination of the loan. Is what it
Say
is.
that again?
The 8 weeks starts at the origination of the loan. We've been
Okay.
working on it all day today. This is Joe with Wex.
Okay.
Oh, thanks, Joe.
The origination of the loan then. So that means for everybody out there, we have a deadline to originate these loans no later than May 1st, right? So that we have the full 8 weeks at play.
Exactly. That was my understanding today. We had a big meeting about it today via Zoom. But that was our understanding. Is it's from the origination of the loan, it's 8 weeks, and everything can be forgiven. I'm under the same impression that Carol gave, that even some businesses who aren't being affected as dramatically are going to have access to this payroll protection, which, like you said, is kind of disheartening, but it makes it imperative that we all are taking full advantage of this loan.
Carol, if you click
that's
on
the
that
loan-
program overview on the screen, it gives you more details.
Not much more.
Yeah.
Well, it does tell you who is eligible to file for it, what the assistance is supposed to be for. It says for payroll, rent, mortgage interest, or utilities,
Those are
nonprofits,
all, yeah.
tribal concerns, sole proprietors, self-employed individuals, independent contractors, so on, and then more details.
So
Can I chime in real quick in reference to is it Michael's comment?
George, can I stop you? I'm just
Sorry?
kidding. I'm just kidding you.
And also I have a question, Carol. Why don't you know everything? Okay. The way I'm kind of looking at this, I've concluded the same thing. You know, we have to get these loans happening by May 1st. But you can also go backwards. You know, if you originate May 1st, it can cover expenses prior to that. So I'm looking at it personally as a way to just pay my employees, even if they're not working, for say a month of that. And then hopefully, you know, by the second month, you know, the thing will be over and we can actually put them to work. But, you know, looking at these percentages, if you don't put them to work, you're going to have less money also to subsidize your rent and your utilities proportionally to how many people you work. So if that makes any sense. But I'm not looking at necessarily as people are going to come back to work. They may all just get paid and, you know, all of them will work 10 hours doing painting or something.
So
but I'm still going to pay them 8 hours.
I talked to somebody today who said that he was actually going to bring people back at the rate they're making on unemployment. And because he didn't think he was going to get all of his employees to come back anyway. And for the time being, in order to take advantage of the paycheck protection, he's going to bring them back at that higher rate. And then have the whole loan forgiven. So that's something to think about too. Because honestly, if I'm somebody out there that's making way more, $21 an hour being unemployed, I don't know that I want to come back and not work for you.
But it's $460 a week plus the $600 a month, right?
No, it's $600 a week.
Oh, it's $600 a week?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Jeez. George, you're on microphone.
I'm on record as saying, oh shit.
Okay, guys. I think that's what we'll talk about for today. If you guys have a CPA that you think has this information down and you would like to have them come on this phone call, I would really appreciate it. And I'm also looking for a banker. I may have somebody down in Las Cruces to do that, but I really appreciate you guys being on. And I'm doing as much as I can to figure this stuff out and figure it out in your best interest. But, you know, everybody's going to be a little bit different. Each one of you has a different situation. So what you hear here, you do need to go out and get your own professionals to help you navigate these relief acts, and we'll try to do as much as that as we can too. There's a lot of misinformation out there. I'm trying not to proliferate that, and really appreciate you guys being here and not calling me individually, just because I get a lot of calls these days, and it's just really helpful if we'll all be on this call. You guys are as knowledgeable as I am in some cases, and so it's helpful to have you on here and letting other people know what they can do, because really we are all in this together. I so much appreciate you guys, and we're going to get through this together. So talk to you tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Bye.